In 1978, a sophomore at Emsley A. Learning High School walked past a printed list taped on a gym wall. His name wasn't written on it. He had been cut from the varsity football team. That boy was Michael Jordan. You already know how the story is supposed to end. He went home, got angry, trained obsessively, and became the greatest player in history. It's the story we were told at graduation, in job interviews, in motivational posts. Failure is the setup for success. You have heard it so many times, it barely registers anymore. But here's the question almost nobody asks. If failure really builds success, why do most people who fail never recover from it at all? Why does one rejection turns a person into Michael Jordan and turns another person into someone who never plays basketball again? Something doesn't add up. The obvious explanation is resilience. Some people have it, some don't. It's a comfortable idea because it puts the outcome entirely inside the person. Try harder, bounce back, simple. Except psychology, who actually study failure, kept running into a problem. Resilience isn't a fixed trait you either have or don't. It behaves more like a skill that gets built through specific kind of failure, not just any failure. Which means the real question isn't why do some people fail better? It's what is actually happening mechanically inside a failure that determines whether it destroys you or trains you. To find the mechanism, you have to look somewhere unexpected. Not at winners, but at how the brain processed losing in the first place. In late 1970s, psychologists Daniel Kahneman and Amos ran a series of experiments that would eventually win a Nobel Prize. They found something strange about how humans with gain and losses. Losses sometimes doesn't just feel bad, it feels roughly twice as bad as an equivalent gain feels good. Losing $100 doesn't hurt half as much as finding $100 feels nice. It hurts far more than that. That's called its loss aversion. And this is where the story gets interesting. Losses aversion explains why failure feels catastrophic, but it doesn't explain why people use that pain to improve and others let it stop them completely. Syria Berkeley, the founder of Spanx, has described in an interview how her father used to ask her and her brother a specific question at a dinner table. Not what did you achieve this week, but what did you fail at? But they had nothing to report. He was disappointed.
Growing up, my dad used to encourage my brother and me to fail. So at the dinner table, he would actually ask us, what did you fail at this week? And if we didn't have something to tell him, he would actually be disappointed.
Notice what the question actually does. It doesn't remove the seed of failure. It reframes what failure means. In that house, not failing wasn't safety. It was evidence you didn't try anything. This is the first clue of the mechanism. Failure isn't the variable that builds people. It's the story someone is allowed to tell about the failure. That's the variable. But that's still not the whole answer because plenty of people are told failure is good for you and still crumble. So researchers went looking for what happened after the reframe. What actually gets rebuilt inside a failure that succeeds at teaching you something. This is where concept of pre-mortem comes in, developed by psychologist Gary Crane. Instead of post-mortem examining a failure after it happens, a pre-mortem asks a team to imagine before starting that the project has already failed and work backward to figure out why. Failure only becomes useful the moment it stops being about you and starts being about the system that it produced. The people who use failure well aren't most tolerant of pain. They have simply learned to separate two questions that most of us instantly force together. What does failure say about my worth versus what does the failure say about my method? Go back to the gym hall, 1978. Jordan didn't fail at basketball. He was 5'11", competing against players a year older and considerably taller. A team that already had enough guard. It was structurally a reasonable roster decision. The story usually leaves that part out because it wasn't tall enough yet. It's less satisfying than it was cut and never give up. But that detailed matter. Jordan didn't treat the cut as a verdict on who he was. He treated it as an information about what he could still change. His conditioning, his skill, his height, which did eventually cut up. He separated these two questions. Here is where it gets personal. Think about the last time you failed at something and quietly decided not to try again. A pitch that got rejected, a relationship that got ended badly, a skill you dropped after one embarrassing moment. It probably didn't feel like a data problem. It felt like a verdict. That's confusion. Mistaking a failed method for failed self is not personally flawed. It's the default setting of your brain wired by millions of years of loss aversion to treat failure as a danger, not data. Which means the people who seems to win by losing aren't wired differently. They have simply learned deliberately to interrupt their fusion, to ask what the failure revealed about the method before letting it answer the question of who they are. So maybe the real question wasn't why losing sometimes leads to winning. Maybe it was always this: why you fail, what exactly are you allowed to prove?